Hello, good afternoon, everyone. So we're still admitting some participants who are just joining in. Yeah. So can anyone confirm if you can hear me clearly? You can confirm via the chat box that we have. Yeah. Thank you, Randy, for confirming. All right. So we are also live on Facebook via our Facebook page, IEEE Young Professionals Republic of Philippines. Yeah. So some are still joining in. So guys, let me just remind you, if there is any problem in the audio, please message us using the chat box so we would be aware. And yeah, because we do not know if there's any problem if you do not tell us. Okay. All right. So a lot of people still coming in. All right, so I think we can start the program. So allow me to introduce myself. I am Engineer Christian P. Anoval. I am the current chair of the IEEE Young Professionals Republic of Philippines. And we are under the IEEE, the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, which is the largest technical professional organizations globally. And we also have here in the Philippines, we have the Philippines section IEEE, and I'm also the public relations officer of the IEEE Philippines section. All right, so we are privileged to host this event. This is our first webinar, and we're really glad to have uh, one of our very dynamic volunteer from IEEE Young Professionals who would be delivering the talk today. All right, so before I introduce our speaker, just a reminder, a few reminders while we are having our webinar. Kindly mute your microphones. I apologize, I haven't set the settings of the Zoom to mute all participants, so it would be hassle for me to mute uh, each one of you. So please do allow yourselves to mute your microphones. All right, and then for questions, kindly use the chat box. Do not interrupt our speaker. So allow our speaker to finish the talk, and you will be given time later on to ask questions if you would like to speak with the speaker. However, we can entertain questions using the chat box. So please do so. Please utilize our chat box. And of course, don't forget to like our Facebook page, IEEE Young Professionals Philippines. So again, we are live via Facebook. And last reminder for the digital certificate, we will be distributing. Professionals Philippines is really generous enough to provide free digital certificates, which will be signed by yours truly, the chair, and our speaker today. So we will be sharing the link for the registration. So there will be another registration for the digital certificate. And please don't forget to type in your correct name later on. I will be sharing to you the link after our speaker deliver the talk. All right. So now allow me to introduce our speaker. So our speaker believes, all right, in the vision that quality and relevant education imparted through practical learning skills can empower every student in the world. He recently founded a virtual education startup, which he calls EduRise Global, to bring his vision come alive. Aravindan completed his bachelor's degree in computer science and engineering at Sri Muthukumaran Institute of Technology in Chennai, India. After his graduation, because of his interest and passion towards education, he pursued the Teach for India fellowship, where he worked as a full-time teacher nurturing grade 4 and grade 5 students, known as design thinkers. All right. Somebody is not on mute. Please mute yourself. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. Okay. To continue, over the past 6 years, Aravindan has actively been involved in volunteering with the IEEE and has enabled 150 plus students and young professional activities across India as a dynamic volunteer. He is a recipient of the global recognition like Richard E. Merwin Student Leadership Scholarship in 2014, Continuous Service Award in 2019 for his contributions toward IEEE Computer Society, and MGA Larry K. Wilson Outstanding Asia Pacific Student Volunteer Award in 2016, MGA Young Professional Achievement Awards in 2019, and the EAB Meritorious Achievement Award in Pre-University Education 2018 for coaching and mentoring pre-university students in STEM. He has been featured in media including NDTV, The New Indian Express, edX, and many online media. He has delivered skill building and motivational talks as a guest speaker at 50 plus institutions and interacted with students around the globe. He also spoke at TEDx about how he can champion our education system through the contextual education. He has also previously worked with the fundraising and communications team at Teach for India, Chennai, and he serves as a volunteer leadership roles in India as the Madras Young Professionals Chair, the Global Young Professionals Representative of Professional Communication Society, webmaster of Region 10 Educational Activities, and mentoring coordinator of IEEE CS Awards and Recognition Committee. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce to you our guest speaker today, who will be discussing about design thinking. A virtual of applause to Aravindhan Anbazhagan. Hello, Aravindan. Good afternoon. Are you in?
Good
Can you
afternoon,
take?
Ian. Good afternoon, Ian. Thank you so much for the wonderful
Yeah,
introduction. I'm so glad to be a part of this webinar. I hope my audio and video are fine for the participants. Um,
yeah, it's
so
very fine.
yeah,
Yeah, you can
yeah,
share your screen now, Aravindan. I'll stop sharing my
sure,
screen.
sure,
Thank you so
sure.
much.
All right. Before I wanted to start off, I wanted to say some words. Magandang hapon.
Magandang hapon also, Aravindan.
uh,
Nice that
and
you're learning a few Filipino words.
Yeah, and a question for all of you. Kumusta kayo?
We're good, we're good.
Okay, great.
So,
Okay.
some are having thumbs up.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so these are some words that I learned today, and these are some things that I am really passionate about by being a part of IEEE, right? Understanding new things, learning about new cultures. So I'm really glad to be a part of this specific webinar with Philippines Young Professionals. So I will get started. I'm just sharing my screen. Just let me know if you can see my screen.
Yeah, perfectly fine. I can see it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ian.
Yeah.
All right. So today the topic that we are going to see in this webinar is about design thinking. So this topic is very closer to my heart. One, because this is a really interesting problem solving approach, right? We all as engineers and as professionals, we love to solve problems, but are we solving the real problem? So that's the question that this specific approach poses to us, right? So so I will get started before I get started, I wanted to hear from all of you as well. If you can do a quick introduction about your name, your institution, and your organization you are from, and briefly describe yourself in one word. Yeah, it could be anything. So I'm going to see the comment box. You can type in your comments and quickly introduce yourself. I'm going to repeat the instructions again. You can use the chat box and quickly introduce yourself by typing your name. And if you are coming from an institution, you can do it as well. And describe yourself in one word. You can send it to public. Yeah. I think Kristen, Ian has already responded. Wonderful. So Ian describes himself as a leader. Wonderful. Thank you, Ian. I look forward to hear from other participants as well. You can type, thank you, Randy. Randy is a teacher. Wonderful. Thank you, Randy. Samantha, Technology University Philippines. Thank you, Samantha. If you could also introduce yourself in one word, that will be great. Thank you, Lawrence. You are an illustrator, so we are happy to have you here. Jobel. Jobel, thank you for joining. If you could introduce yourself in one word as a person, how would you describe you? Cluster, netizen, haha, great. Dexter, aspiring professional. Jobel has responded, determined, great. Grayson is a programmer, great. John Joshua, educator, great, great. So we have people who are interested in technology, people who are interested in teaching. We have people who consider themselves as netizens. So we have all sort of people here. I'm going to give you another 10 seconds for people to respond. If you haven't introduced yourself, you can introduce yourself now. Thank you, Rasmin, an aspiring network engineer. Amazing. Thank you, Roberto. Roberto is a goal-oriented person. Great. All right. John, Christine, learner. Yeah, we are all learners always. Yes, yes, amazing. Joy says aspiring site engineer. Great.
Yeah.
You can see a lot of
Yeah,
aspiring engineers.
yes, Aravindan, just to interrupt you, some of the participants were actually my previous students.
Oh, great. Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, yeah.
They have just graduated. Because of the pandemic, they're supposed to be graduates already, but
Oh,
technically
got
they're
it.
already graduates. Yeah.
Great, great. I think it's a similar situation in India too. The final year students, the graduating students are all waiting for the examinations to happen. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that's
Wonderful.
why this is a great opportunity for them as well. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much for actively responding. So this is something that I always want you. This is the kind of energy that I always want you to keep it till the end of the webinar. Please feel free to ask questions, post your comments. So that's all the webinar is all about. Yeah. All right. So now you have introduced yourself. Ian has given me a formal introduction, but I also wanted to introduce with associate me with these words, right? I have been an engineer. I finished my computer science engineering. I have been an educator. I taught primary school students for a couple of years. I am an aspiring entrepreneur. I just started my startup venture like a couple of months back, and I'm learning so much of things. I really passionate about volunteering, right? Volunteering for IEEE, spending time and efforts. So that's volunteering. I've been a public speaker. I have been a mentor to a lot of students. I really like coaching and helping students. And as a person, I'm a very optimist, right? I always see the positive things in everything. So that keeps me going. And I'm based out of India. I live in a city called Chennai. You can find me in my website, more about me in my website. And this is the name of my company, EduRise Global. All right. So before I start off with the topic design thinking, I have some questions for the participants again, right? The first question for you, as a person, do you like to solve problems? It's a yes or a no. Please post on the comment box. Thank you, Ian. Yes, yes, yes. Amazing. As engineers, especially complicated ones, thank you for sharing that. as engineers and as human beings, we all have the tendency and interest to solve problems, right? So, and it is the that keen interest has motivated us to grow this much in technology or advancement of innovation or anything, right? That's a basic instinct. The second question that I'm going to ask you here is, have you solved any problem so far? Yes or a no? You can post your answer. Hopefully, yeah, yes, many, great, yes, yes. Thank you. Yes, at work collaboratively. Yes, yes. So again, going back to the thing, we are all solving problems each and every day. The problem solving need not be a very complex thing. It can also be very simple things like figuring out what we should do during the pandemic, right? We were all problem solvers, and again, that intention has motivated us to solve problems always. So as engineers, we have solved problems, so many problems so far, and problem solving is all about what we are going to see in this webinar. The third question, now all of you have said to me that you are interested in problem solving and you have solved problems so far, right? The third question for you is, what do you think is important for problem solving? What value is important, or what mindset is important, or what ideas are important? Like what is important based on your experiences of problem solving? If you could type your answer. Identifying the root and be patient. Thank you so much, Joshua, for sharing that. Patience, wonderful. Creativity, analysis, creativity, communication and collaboration. That's amazing. Analyze the problem. Yeah, yeah, great. In-depth analysis. Thank you so much for, I think I'm hearing a lot of the depth, right? Understanding the problem in depth is something that's important. Good attitude. Yeah, that's so much of important, because in problem solving you face a lot of challenges. Open-mindedness. Thank you so much for sharing that, Roberto. I think problem solving is all about keeping an open mind and keeping your eye and ear out on everything, right? Wonderful. So before I actually start off, I think I'm going to build off all these things, and I'm also going to share you a very small story, right? Before I jump onto design thinking and help you to understand the process, I'm going to share you a very quick story. This is something that I heard from that I heard over a podcast over the last weekend, right? So in this story, this story is happening in Harvard. So what happened in typically that in the Harvard University, the students are provided with a problem statement, right? They are given with $5 of cash, and then they are provided with 2 hours of time, right? Now the challenge, they have broken the teams into three, and the problem for, I mean, the challenge for the teams is that which team you leverages the $5 and the 2 hours, goes out and brings the best profit, right? Makes the best profit. They are the winners. And at the end, the all the teams has to present for 5 minutes in front of the entire Harvard classroom. So that's a challenge they have provided. So in this challenge, what interestingly happened was the first group went on, they actually purchased some equipments with the $5 that they had, with a very limited set of things. They started working in car shed and started figuring out things. They were not able to they were not able to gain a lot of money, right? That's the first group. The second group understood that the $5 is actually a distraction, right? What they have really is 2 hours of time, right? So they thought, okay, in these 2 hours, what can I really do is, what are the things that I can actually service, I can provide, so that I can earn a lot of money in these 2 hours, right? And then they went on providing service for people. They were actually able to gain some money. So that's what happened with the second group. The third group realized the $5 is a distraction, and the 2 hours is also a distraction. The important thing that they have found out from this specific challenge is what they really have in this challenge. That's something that they can make use of, right? And they have realized that the 5 minutes of presentation time in front of the Harvard audience is the asset that they have, is the beneficial point that they have, which they can use to win this challenge. So what they did is they actually called up one of the marketing firms and asked them if they want to use this 5 minutes to pitch their product in front of the Harvard audience. So what happened is the group three, they actually sold the 5 minutes of time, which they have to present to an external audience for thousands of dollars. And in the end, they have, they are the ones who were able to um, gain, win the competition as well as to gain a lot of money. So the reason I'm saying you this specific story is there are different perspectives to every problem solving, right? There are distractions, there are root causes, there are multiple things, but it is important to analyze the problem and understand what are the pain points or what are the positives that we can also leverage from that specific problem in itself. So on that note, I'm going to be introducing you to the topic of today, design thinking, which is a creative approach to problem solving in itself. So this specific technique is not only used for product designers, it can be used for educators, it can be used by learners, it can be used by engineers, it can be used by anyone who is doing problem solving, and they can effectively use this approach to strengthen their solution, right? Ultimately, we want to give a solution that's more relevant to the problem, and we can use this approach. So before we start off with the design thinking, a quick history behind it. How did all started? I think design thinking has been there in text since 1950s, right? 1950s, 60s, people have started writing about it, but the actual business implementation was started in the year 1991, and it was actually done by this person called David M. Kelly, and he is the founder of IDEO. So IDEO is an international organization who are working in design thinking as well, right? And they have designed so many products, including the Apple mouse, the first ever mouse that was arriving for computers. So that was done by IDEO. And you can actually find a lot of interesting products they have developed, the product of interesting innovations they have developed by visiting their website. Yeah. The Let's move into the process in itself. Why design thinking? If you really ask me, similar to the story I have told you, design thinking actually fixes the problems, right? It doesn't give the solutions that you want to give, but it actually helps you to understand the solutions which the problem needs exactly. And secondly, design thinking is an inclusive process. It provides a voice for all, right? Mostly the problem solving happens at a top level, and people over there with their experiences and ideas, they will solve the problems. But at the end of the day, it is the people, or it is the end users, right, who are going to be experiencing the solution, right? So this specific process provides a voice for each and everyone, each and every stakeholder. So that's very key, right? The third one is this process also has a lot of process documentation, because you go step by step as a process and you document whatever that you're learning each and every step, so that this specific learning could be used by someone who is solving a similar problem around the globe. Yeah. The fourth one is the solutions that you are designing are more stakeholder aligned. What I mean by stakeholder aligned is very similar to the point on voice for all, because when you have your stakeholders who are ready to accept the solutions, you also try piloting it out with the stakeholders, and then they can come back to you and give solutions. So how did I use design thinking is a very interesting story, which I'll be sharing towards the end part, right? So it felt like more of a theoretical idea, but only when we start experiencing it and experimenting it in real time, I was able to see a lot of difference. All right. So the different phases of design thinking. Now we are exactly going into the phases of it. So if you are someone who are looking into the taking notes or taking some key takeaways from this webinar, so this will be the point. So you can actually get ready with your notes. So the different phases of design thinking. The first phase is feel, right? The second phase is imagine. The third phase is do, and the final one is share. So what is that I'm going to do quickly is I'm going to deep dive into each and every phases, and I'm going to broadly explain it with all the phases with three ideas, right? Let us assume in this point, what I would also like to help you with is If you can do this process visually, so that will also be a really great thing. I mean, as I say, go through this webinar, if you can actually ideate something, that will also be great. So I am also going to give you some time after each and every phase so that you can identify and create a solution for your own problem that, I mean, that you see as something that's important. Yeah. Let's move into the field phase. This is the first and the most interesting thing, the understanding about the problem in itself. So the first point that I'm going to give you, the first tip that I'm going to give you, understand all the requirements, right? If you have any problem, understand the complete requirements of the problem. Okay, so what are the things that's required, what are the things that are required on different timelines, right? The second one is understand who are the stakeholders and what is their opinion of the problem in itself, right? For example, today you can say water sanitation or water could be a problem, but how the stakeholders or the end users seeing that problem, that perspective you have to get. The third one is immersion. You cannot solve any problems with, I mean, by being on the top, right? The idea is to get yourself immersed and completely focus on the problem itself by immersing, deep diving into it. So I think for me, when I was a teacher, I think what really helped me was immersion is really about understanding the communities, understanding about the students, right? I was a teacher and I really wanted to know more about students. So what I did was I actually went on to um, the students' houses. I spoke with different people. So for me, as an educator, I felt that immersion was a great, great eye opener for me, so that I can actually learn more about my students and I can also implement them in my classroom, right? Similar to that, when whatever that you're doing, either programming or actually learning, right? You can, if you're thinking about any problem, just try to immerse it. And how you can do it, understand the requirements and understand the stakeholders. So this is the first step. And what I'm going to give you, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to quickly jot down on your notebook or your laptop or your mobile phone, if there are any one problem that you want to solve, and what are the requirements and stakeholders related to the problem. Yeah, I'm going to give you 30 seconds so you can actually go to the other screen and type it down and then maybe come back.
Can you repeat that for others who do not get it,
Sure,
Aravindhan?
sure. So the instruction from my side is, so there are 4 different phases in design thinking. At each and every phase, at the end of it, I'm going to give you 30 seconds. So what you can do is you can actually um, go to your notebook or to your, Microsoft Word or any documentation tool that you use, and type down what are the requirements, who are the stakeholders of that specific problem. Yeah, I hope my instructions are clear. If you want me to repeat, I can do it as well.
Yeah, thank you,
That's fine.
Aravindhan.
Okay, thank you. All right, another 20 seconds. Five more seconds. All right. So I hope you have, written some sort of a problem. Can I actually hear from a couple of people? Maybe can you type on the comments, like, what is the problem statement you have written alone, right? Can I hear from a couple of people on the comment box? If you could type on the comment box, what is the one problem statement you are thinking on top of your mind? I mean, whatever that you have written on your notes, you can also type it on the comments. To solve COVID-19 issue, thank you so much, Ian, for bringing it up. It's a global problem, right?
Yeah,
One more
yeah,
response.
that's the first thing that popped out in my mind.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for everyone, right? Yeah. Can I hear one more response? how to implement online education. Thank you so much, Grayson, for bringing it up. How do Philippines manage electronic waste? Thank you, John. Now these are very broad problems. I think that's something that's very important in problem identification as well, right? It could be broad, and that's when you will be able to relate to the process a lot more, right? I really liked the ideas that you guys were able to bring up. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, now let's move to the next phase in itself. So this phase, specific phase, is called imagine, right? Now you have a deep dived into the problem, you have understood in its depth, right? At least, I mean, if you haven't done it 100%, you have tried your best to understand about the problem, to research about it, to know more about it, to immerse yourself deeply and completely to it. Now the second phase is going to be taking it's going to be a clear sky blue thinking, right? So you can start imagining your own ideas that you think will work to solve the problem. Let's go back to the problem of managing e-waste, or giving online education to everyone, or to solving the COVID-19 issue, right? Think blue sky and come up with the ideas that you wanted to really implement, right? Now what I mean by blue sky thinking is not restricting yourself to say, okay, I think this problem, this solution will work, this solution will not work. Not like that, right? Think blue sky and write as many ideas as possible that you think will solve the problem. So that's the step number one. The step number two is to be really think as a global entity, right? What I mean by global entity, I think that could be much more related to COVID-19 thing, because if you have successfully identified one solution to COVID-19, or giving online education, or managing electronic e-waste at Philippines in itself, then you can create, you can use that idea to solve the problems around the globe. There are many more countries which are facing the same problems, right? So when you're actually thinking about the solution in itself, think also globally. So think also, do some research around what are the people around the globe are doing towards solving that problem, so that you can actually also implement it at a global level. The third point is thinking creatively. Now this is something someone was also mentioning on the chat box initially, right? So creativity is the most essential thing of problem solving, and I'm going to repeat to say, it need not be a solution that was given by someone already. It could be your own solution that you have developed creatively, right? So take some time out and to create the solution itself. Now you are not going to the problem, you're not seeing where you are exactly. Now you are thinking blue sky and coming up with the top level ideas that you wanted to implement, right? You're not going to be checking whether they will work, they will not work, or they are feasible, like there are no discussions on it. It's going to be all about what are the ways that I can do to solve. Similar to the last time, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you 30 seconds of time to to actually think of the problem, think blue sky, and come up with some ideas, at least some 3 to 4 ideas, right? I'm going to repeat the instruction again. Take 30 seconds of time. You would have written a problem statement in the field phase. Just look at the problem statement, think blue sky, come up with a list of solutions that you think will work towards solving the problem. If you have any interesting solutions, if you have already shared your problem statement, you can share your solution alone. If you haven't shared it, you can also share your problem and solution. You have another 20 seconds of time on the comment box. Yeah. Another 10 seconds. All right. Um, can I hear a couple of responses similar to the first time? What is the problem you have identified, and what are some solutions that you are thinking? It need not be right, but these are ideas that you are able to come up with. That's important. You can post it on the comment box. Thank you, John. Conduct intensive research and enact laws regarding electronic waste. That's really wonderful, right? That could be one of the great ideas. Yeah. And the most interesting thing about imagine is anybody can imagine, right? There is no restriction that you need a qualification, you need an idea. I mean, anybody can do an imagine. Like everyone has creativity, everyone has the God-given brain, right? So anybody can imagine. Just reach out to multiple people and understand their opinions of the problem too. I think we also have a response from Mike. How will employees who cannot do work from home have income during pandemic? Online business, provide services. Wonderful. That's great way to get started, Mike. Thank you so much for sharing that. Those are some of the clear blue sky thinking ideas, right? Yeah. Conduct further research and test on the COVID vaccine. Thank you, Ian, for sharing that. I think a lot of people are doing it as well. Yeah, that's something that we can also do. Yeah. Thank you so much for actually sharing your responses. It is really overwhelming. I hope you are able to follow on the process. If you have any questions too, please feel free to ask. Yeah. The next phase is we are getting into action, right? So what I always used to tell people is people typically they jump into do. Whenever they see a problem, they jump into do. They do not actually understand the problem in depth, or they actually don't actually think of some solutions before they actually go into do. So some will do by doing and then learning, right? But I think do is the most important phase of solving the problem. But at the same time, do should have a good amount of backup, right, in terms of your knowledge, your ideas, so that you can do the action part effectively. So the first important thing about do is also creating an action plan for yourself. Now before we step into anything, it's great that if we can have a plan for doing anything, right? Like for example, I think I'll go with the example that was given by Mike, right? How will employees who cannot do work from home have income during this pandemic? Online business. Now, if we are going to help the people who cannot do work from home to actually promote online business, like what are the things that we should do? Like creating an action plan, setting up goals, identifying the top areas, and then also building on the different objectives related to every timeline. Like for what's the first month's goal? What is the first month's objective? What is the things that we're going to do on the second month? Like if we have a detailed action plan, consider that there might be a lot of uh, i mean there might be a lot of ups and downs, right? So it is very uncertain, but at the same time having a plan is more important when before we step into action. So that's all about creating an action plan. The second step is to actually execute it, right? So execution is a skill in itself. So if you have created a plan, you would have thought much more into much deeper into that, so that now it is clearly about doing it, right? It's not about when you're doing it, you're not going to think back and say, okay, can I do this, can I do this? But what you will do is you will be executing the plan completely. Now that's a very interesting and a positive thing for the problem solvers, right? The people on the ground, because they know what exactly they are doing. Like if we don't have an action plan, then we might be end up doing and then coming back and doing coming back. So that won't happen in the clear execution. The third and the most important step is looking at the outcomes, understanding what are the outcomes. So when you create an action plan itself, you will also be developing metrics, like what are the metrics that we can use to evaluate our outcomes. Like for example, like in an online business, how many people are actually being impacted through our plan, right? If you were able to understand that, then you can you can actually understand more about in the outcome as well, like if the outcomes or the goals that we have done is really met. Now the interesting thing about do phase is this is iterative in nature. So you create a plan, you execute it, you see the outcomes, evaluate it. Now then going back to the plan again, tweak it, execute it, create an outcome, going back. So this goes on loop, right? So that's all about do part. It's the action part in itself. Now I think it will take it will take some amount of time for you to develop an action plan. What I'm going to give you is like 30 seconds to get you start thinking about your problem, your solution, and what are the things that you can really do, right? Yeah, please don't hesitate to ask if there are any questions too. Yeah, I'm more than happy to answer. and take this time to think about what are the steps that you can do, practical steps. It need not be right. I'm just building the muscle for you to actually practice this process so that it comes naturally to you when you actually do it. Yeah, I'm going to give you 30 seconds. If you have any questions also, please feel free to post on the process. What are the basis of this design thinking paradigm? Okay, so the basis of this design thinking is I mean, the literature theory, there is a lot of literature over there. So design thinking is a concept in itself. It was actually developed, that's a literature around it on Stanford University. I think in the year 2001, they have actually officially published it. So you can feel free to, go over and understand more about by reading those papers. Yeah. And especially IDEO has actually developed so many products using this process itself. Yeah. I hope that answered you, Mike. There are so many literatures available. Yeah. Cool. I'm going to give you another 30 seconds to think about the solution that you are thinking. Another 10 seconds. All right. So I'm not going to ask you to share the action plan because I know it will take some amount of time. But just have a thing on your mind to say, okay, so when you are actually really solving a problem, create an action plan so that you can actually, it will help you to strengthen your execution. Yeah. The fourth and the final step that I'm going to explain to you today is the share, which is all about the final phase of the reflection part, right? Where you have done the entire process completely. You're going to reflect it and understand about what are the strengths or what are the areas of developments that you felt about yourself, about the project, about the plan and everything. The second is also trying to amplify it. So now you have solved one problem in a creative way, in the way that you find that's helpful, and you saw the outcomes of it. Now try seeing, can you impact more people? Like if we are actually able to impact certain set of people, certain areas with electronic waste, can we also see that we can actually help many people or many areas, like through this specific solution that you're bringing in? Yeah, that's the amplify. And the most important thing is iterate, like do multiple versions of it so that you exactly know which one will work. And honestly, every time solutions that we are bringing, it keeps on changing, right? It keeps on changing according to the situation, because during the time of pandemic, like one solution will work. At the same time, when we are back to normal stage, there should be another solution that's needed. So it is most important that we actually identify the iteration. We do the iteration and I'll understand the multiple things. So yeah, so these are the four different phases. There are actually a lot more phases if you actually look at design thinking. So there are different approaches to this design thinking itself. The product developers use it in a different way, but the crux is this. So this is the whole the lot of steps combined into this small four. There are, if you are an engineer and if you want to deep dive more about design thinking, please feel free to do so. And I also want to inspire you with this quote today. So this is said by Albert Einstein, a scientist. So if I had 60 minutes to solve a problem, I would spend 55 minutes defining it and 5 minutes solving it. So this happens most often with our lives too, right? So we always see a problem and we don't understand it in depth and we go for solution, which I think should be the other way around. The more time should be spent on the problem, identifying the root cause or identifying what really causes it, then solving it. Like similar to the story that I told you in the beginning. So what is really important is understanding the problem in depth. So here are some next steps that I can actually suggest all of you to do if you want to know more about design thinking. I think I had a very limited time. How much time I took? Oh, I took around 50 minutes, right? Oh God. Okay. Okay. So so these are next steps that you can definitely do, right? I apply the approach in very small things that you are doing. Like think about your daily work that you do, think about the learning that you're doing, think about the problems in your work. So try applying the approach. The second step is I would recommend you to read a lot of things online about this specific thing. I think adding to the answer to the Mike's question, there are so many literature, so many problem solving approaches which are done by people. Like you will see a lot of examples of how people have drastically changed things, transformed things through their design thinking. Please feel free to read more online. And this is a website that I would recommend you. If you are thinking more about design thinking, please feel free to go to this website called designthinking.ideo.com. It will give you a lot of inspiration and information for you to do design thinking for different different problems and solutions. Yeah, you will be able to see a lot of the database of solutions which are developed by people. Yeah, so these are some next steps. And I also wanted to share with you about a workshop that we are doing for graphic design. This is not a design thinking workshop, but this is a graphic design. So you have seen this presentation, it is done through Canva. If you are interested to learn more about Canva, and please feel free to join this workshop. This is done by from my organization EduRise. Yeah, and please feel free to reach out to me online if you have any questions related to IEEE or related to design thinking. I'm more than happy to answer. If you want to do this webinar for your student branches or for any audience, I'm more than happy to do this as well. I was really glad when Ian was reaching out to me to actually do this webinar. So I really enjoy speaking to people and sharing my knowledge. Yeah, and you can please feel free to follow me on social media. I'm active on all the social media. I mean, especially on Instagram and Twitter. And you can also follow me on LinkedIn and Facebook. So once you send a request, I'll also send you back. We can definitely connect it. Ultimately, it's a global village, right? So yeah, and finally, I'm done with my presentation. So this is all what I had today. And I told you guys that I'll be sharing my experiences with design thinking, right? So when I was doing this fellowship called Teach for India, so that's when I was actually learning about design thinking. So this is a 2-year fellowship. You get to be a teacher on the ground, teaching students. So when I was actually completing my first year of fellowship, I learned about this design thinking process. And the second year, my entire classroom was based on design thinking. I named my classroom as Design Thinkers, and we started understanding more about the process, and also did a lot of problem solving too. So we were able to bring in technology to the classroom. We were able to give a lot of access to the students. The students started identifying the problems in their communities, and they started solving too. So that's how I learned about design thinking as an educator. So, and I continue learning it too. So it actually really helped me to think and create a lot of sky blue solutions, especially with education and technology. So I would strongly recommend that in case if you think you could solve a problem, please feel free to use it. There are so many different problem solving approach. This is one of them, and this is something that I think could be a lot more helpful. Yes, any questions? Yeah. Feel imagines to share already own synthesis for from experiences. So the phases are very different, Mike. So I think to answer your question, there are different approaches to it, right? I think some people will start about prototyping and designing and testing, like that's one set of process, right? But the field imagines do share stages in itself is something that I took it from this website called Design for Change. So they were doing a lot of activities for students competitions. So this is something I saw, especially working with students, because it's very simplified, right? It's not very it's not very detailed and depth oriented, but it's something that we can easily remember. When you see a problem, feel it, imagine it, do it, and share it, right?
Yeah.
Is this a part of specific standards or theoretical concept? Yeah, actually, this specific thing that I shared with you, I think this is one approach towards problem solving, one way of saying the phases in itself. There are so many different phases. There are 6 phases towards problem solving if you are thinking it as a product designer, right? Because it is, but the crux is this. So yeah.
Yeah. So I think that depends on the problem that you are solving, right?
Yeah, also on that, and also based on your profession. So that's something that I think.
Definitely.
Based on experience, what is the most effective way of collaborating ideas based from different design thinkers. That's wonderful. So I actually recently started using this tool called Miro board. Joshua, have you heard of this? So this tool is called Miro board. You can also
Can you
type it
type
on Google.
that in, Aravindan, in the chat
Sorry.
box? Can you type that?
Yeah, sure. I'll do it right now. So I don't remember the exact website name. It's called Miro board.
Miro
And
board. Oh, good. Okay.
yeah, it is a very interesting tool that has been used by a lot of product designers earlier. Now a lot of educators are using it too, and I personally use it in my organization, and I also teach people of how to use Miro board. The interesting thing about this specific tool is you different people get different ideas, right? You get to actually create them, bucket them together, and actually try to identify the trends and things around it. So it's a very easy to use tool, and if you are thinking to collaboration based on ideas, then I would recommend you to use Miro board, especially with your team. Yeah, I hope that was helpful, Joshua.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So thank you so much for those questions. Any other questions, guys? Yeah. Okay. I think while we're waiting for other questions to come in, I have a question, Aravindan. Is there a formal education or certification to take to be an expert in design thinking?
Yeah. Thank you so much for asking that question, Ian. I think there are a lot of universities which actually help you to understand design thinking as a master's program in itself, right? I mean, I know a number of people who have actually done this design thinking, and there is a lot of scope for engineers to do it as well. I know people who have done that spin. They are enormously contributing to the product development. Like what I mean by product development is they create innovative products, like how the design could be really used by the users, right? Because for example, I think what happens in technology world is we create something and then we actually manufacture it multiple times, but we also need people who can make things into much more efficient, much more smaller, much more usable for all people. I think product designers are one people. Secondly, certificate courses. There are so many courses offered, I think also through IDEO. So they also offer a course for design thinking. I think you can actually attend it. So these are things that you actually you have to pay a certain amount, and you have to be commit a certain amount of time to for learning this. um, and yeah, so in my personal experience, I think design thinking is very grounded approach, right? It helps you to be on the ground and solve things. So you can definitely take up formal learning if you want to, and if you want to use it in your real life and learn it also, you can definitely use it. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for that info. Yeah, so I think it's already a specialization, I think, for especially for engineers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other question from our audience? Yeah. So yeah,
Can
I
I can
think
I can I ask a question, Ian? So I mean, audience.
sure.
So what are maybe one or two takeaways for you from this webinar? If you can type it on the comment box. I know there'll be a feedback form which will be sent by Ian, but I also wanted to hear from all of you. I mean, before I leave, yeah. So that's also the important thing.
Yeah.
What are some takeaways? Is there any takeaways that you're taking back to your work, to your normal life from this webinar?
Yeah. Key takeaways.
Very relatable. Thank you, Joshua. Thank you for I mean, actively engaging on the comments as well, because I think I really like to make a webinar as much as interactive as possible, and also possible for audience to interact. Samantha has a question: how is design thinking different from project based learning? So Samantha, to answer your question in a way, let's say the project based thinking, from in my understanding, is actually helping the learners to do actually projects and actually learn from that specific experience, right? So project based learning is in my opinion is a execution approach. But how do you actually develop it, right? How are you going to think about developing a project based learning approach in itself? Can be done through design thinking, because you are going to be defining the what exact steps that the student learners has to follow, what exact steps has to be done, and what are the timelines and metrics and everything, right? So in my opinion, I think design thinking would be a process that you may consider while creating those project-based learning approaches itself. Thank you, Samantha. Yeah. Abstract concept. Yeah, I think it is an I mean, I wouldn't say it as a complete abstract concept, because a lot of people have developed so many interesting projects through it, right? I mean, you can feel free to go to the IDEO website and understand more. But I mean, I too considered it as a very abstract this thing, right? I mean, when it's on paper, it seems like working, but how it will really work if we are going to do it, right? Then when I was introducing design thinking to my students in my classroom, I was able to see that they were able to relate it while understanding a problem a lot more. So especially for learners and educators, it could be a greater tool. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you'd better understand it if you apply it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think everything is an abstract, right? Like whatever that we are learning will always be an abstract until we actually do it,
when
right?
you experience
So
it yourself.
yeah, yeah, and especially like these management things, I found them okay. So how do we really do it? But only when I actually went into the fellowship, I understood the role of a goal. Okay, why should we set a goal? I used to be like, okay, we can do whatever we want, but the importance of a goal is something when you understand. I mean, when you're an educator, right? When you are an engineer, so that's when you will be able to understand, okay, how these concepts are really working. So yeah, like that. Yeah.
Ah, definitely. You need a
The
real life experience. Yeah. So we have
yeah,
a few more questions.
sure.
Yeah. So from
Thank you,
Robert.
Mike. Mike was saying it's a sort of sad. Yeah, it is a mix of everything. Yeah, I think that's why it's able to. I'm also thinking it was able to solve a lot more problems for any domain, right? So that's there. Roberto is saying action plan, it relates from inspirational code, always allocating time and defining. Thank you, Roberto. Thank you. Yeah,
Okay. Do we have a few questions yet? Do you have more questions from our audience?
yeah.
Before we release Aravindan. So I think Aravindan also have some stuff to do. And yeah, while we're waiting, if there's still a few questions to come in, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you, Aravindan, for being our guest speaker today. I know you're also busy, especially with your business and as an
Yeah,
educator, and we really appreciate your time. And thank you so much for accepting my invitation, of course. And this is a really informative presentation, which is very beneficial in solving problems, which engineers like us are made to do, right? So thank you so much, and I think somebody's just joined in. All right,
thank you.
allow
Yeah,
me to
yeah.
share my screen
So
before we end.
I also wanted to share something, Ian. So thank you so
Okay.
much for inviting me. And I know the Philippines Young Professionals group has started in 2018, are doing so many interesting activities. Kudos to you, and really appreciate the work that you are doing. I mean, as the young professionals leader, and I really like to thank all the participants too for their commitment and their keen active interest in learning, right? So it's important that we learn and we use IEEE to continue learning in this, especially the lockdown phase, because it's a challenging phase for each and everyone around the globe. So wonderful work, wonderful work. So I really appreciate Philippines Young Professionals, like all of you, for being a part of this. I mean, for this webinar and also inviting me. So I was super happy to interacting with you all. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, thank you so much again, Aravindan. Before we finish, yes, allow me to present this certificate of appreciation to you
Wow.
for being the guest speaker on the webinar Design Thinking, given this July 25, 2020. And yeah, for those of you who have not yet uh, joined our organizations. So again, IEEE, the Institute of Electronics and Electrical and Electronics Engineers, which is the largest technical professional organizations globally. You can visit our website, www.ieee.org, and you can browse about the membership there. You can view all the benefits that you can get for being a member. And our organization has a lot of affinity groups. So we have the women in engineering, and of course, we have young professionals. So you can add young professionals for free. There's no additional fee if you click IEEE Young Professionals, and automatically if you key in your Philippine address, basically you are automatically member of the IEEE Philippines section. So if you want to join more of the activities like this one, this is a free webinar, and this is not the last. This is just the beginning, and we hope to conduct more activities with IEEE Young Professionals. We will be inviting more professionals abroad from our young professionals volunteers as well. And don't forget to like our Facebook page, www.facebook.com, IEEE Young Professionals PH. And yeah, thank you for joining. So for the digital certificate, this is the link. I'll type it in so that you can copy it in the chat box. So before, yeah, any last words, Aravindan? Thank you so much
Thank,
again.
thank you
Yeah.
so much, all of you. Thank you so much for listening. I have a request. Can we get a group picture with all the participants?
Yeah, sure, sure. Yeah, I'll just stop
So I
sharing.
mean,
Yeah.
because we can't do I mean virtual like real time activities anymore, so this is the big thing. So please switch on your video so we can click a
Yeah,
picture. Yeah.
you can open your video, guys. This is the link where you can register your name for the certificate. So thank you so much for joining. We have upcoming activities with IEEE Young Professionals. We will be posting all the activities in our Facebook page. So please like our page and follow so you will be updated. Yeah,
All right.
yeah, are you going to take it, Aravindan?
Yeah, I can do it as well. Okay, in
Yeah,
another 5 seconds. Can I hear? Can I see everyone's video on and give me a bigger smile?
yeah.
3, 2. Okay, people are switching on. Okay. Uh, Okay, 3, 2, 1. Oh, that was the other page too. Okay, yeah, done, done, done. Thanks a lot, guys. Thank you so much. I didn't learn the final word of saying good. Thank you in Filipino. Uh,
It's
maybe I'll learn.
salamat. Salamat.
Salamat. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Aravindan, and stay safe. And yeah, see you
You
all in
too.
our
You too.
next.
Take care.
Bye. Have a
Bye
nice
bye.
day.
Bye.